Something very strange happens at the beginning of this week's Parshas Vayishlach, where Yaakov, Jacob, meets Esau, and tells him Im Lavan Garti. And Rashi explains this to mean that despite being exposed to Lavan, someone evil and crooked, Yaakov maintained his Torah learning and all of his moral character traits. And he wasn't influenced by Lavan, nothing bad happened, he retained everything. And if you look back at Yaakov's journey, right before he goes to Lavan, what does he do? He spends 14 years learning in the yeshiva of Shem and Aver. And the question you have to ask is, it seems like this was fundamental to Yaakov's success in the house of Lavan. And the question is, why? Why did Yaakov need 14 years learning in the house of Shem and Aver? Why not learn with Avraham? Or what about all the learning he did with Yitzchak? What was it about Shem and Aver that Yaakov needed before entering the house of Lavan? And to understand this, we need to go back to, what does Avraham represent? What did Avraham bring to the world? Because if you ask a person in the street, what did Avraham bring to the world? Most people will say monotheism. But that can't be, because Adam, he obviously believed in Hashem, and Noah believed in Hashem and lived right before Avram, and Shem and Aver also believed in Hashem, were teaching Torah and lived at the same time as Avram, so it couldn't be that Avram introduced monotheism. So one simple approach is that Avram was the first person to teach Torah to the masses, the first Baal Kiruv, the first person to go out and spread it. And Shem and Aver were more insular, they were isolated, they didn't spread it outwards, they were by themselves. But there is a deeper approach, and it's like this. Most forms of spirituality teach that in order to be spiritual, you have to transcend the physical world. You have to, if you're a Buddhist, you go and sit in a mountaintop and meditate on your navel. Christians, if you want to be spiritual, you have to be celibate, desist from physical pleasure. Muslims, you can't even own wine. And Judaism is very different. It seems almost paradoxical. We drink wine, we're definitely not celibate. Rabbis have physical relationships that are married and have children. What is the Jewish perspective of spirituality? And this is what Avraham taught the world, that in order to be spiritual, you don't have to transcend, you can actually uplift the physical world. And if you think about it, you can count the number of spiritual mitzvahs, commandments, on your hand. Believe in God, you should be in awe of God, don't be jealous. Most commandments are physical actions. You shake the lulav, you eat matzah, you wear tefillin, you wear tzitzis. These are physical actions. We use the physical world to uplift the spiritual. And that's why Avraham's unique mitzvah was bris milah, which is taking the most physical and potentially animalistic organ in the human body and uplifting it. And what day is bris milah done on? The 8th. Why? Because 7 represents the physical. As the Maharal explains, there are 7 days in the week, 7 lights in the spectrum of light, 7 notes in the musical scale, but 8 is the number of transcendence. That's why Hanukkah is 8 days long and it's done with what? With shemen, oil, which is the same with the Shmona, 8 days. That's why bris milah is done the 8th day. We take the physical and most potentially animalistic organ and we uplift it on the 8th day. And that's what Avraham taught the world. And this is why Yaakov had to go to the house of Shem and Aver. Because what did Shem and Aver represent? They represent a different ideology, a more transcendent ideology, where you have to desist and remove yourself from the physical world in order to be spiritual. Why? Because they lived in the times of Dur HaMabul and Dur HaFlaga, the nations full of sin, generations full of sin. And what they had to do was remove themselves in order to retain their spirituality. Avram represented using the physical world to reflect spirituality, and Shem and Aver represent transcending the physical world, going by yourself, going to that mountaintop and meditating on your navel. And in order for Yaakov to be successful in the house of Lavan, where he would be exposed to the terrible influences of Lavan, he needed not only the ideology of Avraham, but the protection and how to protect your spirituality, the ideas that Shem and Aver represented. And that's why before going to Lavan, he had to immerse himself in the study with Shem and Aver. So Avraham helped build Yaakov, and Shem and Aver helped protect Yaakov. But Yaakov represents that beautiful harmony, Tiferes, that oneness of not only transcending, understanding how to transcend and connect to the spiritual, but also, like Avram, uplifting the physical and connecting into the spiritual, using the physical world, harnessing all that potential, and finding meaning and purpose within the spiritual. So we should all be able to be inspired, like Yaakov, to find that beautiful harmony in uplifting the physical and reflecting something higher.